Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It's Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. I want to bring you an update on our winter storm tomorrow that we're going to have with some ice. We've got some rain, we've got some snow, everything kind of in the mix as the system works in from the southwest. So we are going to have a pretty slick rush hour, I think, especially tomorrow evening that we'll have to watch. Tomorrow morning, I don't think we're going to have a lot of problems, but we'll dive into the details on that. But anyway, winter's back. I know it was a nice little hiatus, but it'll be back, and it'll be back for a little while here as we go throughout the extended forecast, because as we were alluding to last week and earlier this week in our Region Weather Live broadcast, we've got several shots at snow and ice next week. Everything kind of goes back to this pattern. So we'll bring you the latest on that. But moreover, I want to get you prepared for tomorrow morning so you know what to expect. There's a lot of information to unpack with this. So we'll do that here in our Wednesday evening edition of Region Weather Live. And good evening to you, everybody. I hope you're doing well this week. Want to say hi to our early birds here. Jeff, hi to you. JD, hi to you. Debbie, hello. Russ, what's up? What's going on? Christina, Mary are here. Andrew says snowblower, lots of dust. Andrew's the one that got the, I'll even throw his comment up here. Andrew's the one that got the snowblower back in December. And ever since he got the snowblower, we haven't had any snow. So you can thank Andrew. Andrew, go ahead, leave your email for everybody and a place where they can send a check. That'd be great. JD's with us. JD, you're welcome, buddy. No problem. Susan, hello to you from Hammond. Deb's with us as well. And Russ says, could be a fun one. Hopefully totals will be cut back with the warm pavement. For sure, that's certainly an opportunity with the warmer air that we've had, Russ, is to melt some of that snow initially or ice, whatever it happens to be. But I think once we lay down that layer of sleet or whatever it happens to be, that's when things are going to turn kind of slick. Hi, Gail. Hi, Sarah. And Barbara, we'll cover Indy as well. We'll get down there as well. All right. Now that we've got some people joined here, first and foremost, introduce myself. I'm Matt Wintz, meteorologist here, obviously. We've got a system moving in. This is the first or the second of two that we were talking about earlier this week. And the system that's moving in tomorrow is a little bit further south than the last one. It's not the big rainmaker where we have the warmer temperatures and the wind. There's still some wind with this, but it's further south in that we're going to have colder air with this. And so our temperatures here right in the region are going to be so borderline during the daytime tomorrow that precip type, I think, is going to be bouncing all over the board. Our temperature will likely start around 36, 35 degrees when you wake up, if you're up 6, 7 a.m., and then it's going to slowly scale back as we go throughout the day. So we're going to lose a degree every hour or two. No big sharp temperature drop, but the problem is we're throwing precip in all this. It's not just here at the surface we worry about. It's the different layers of the atmosphere. There's different temperatures as you go up. So there's going to be a little warm layer in there up above us for a little while, then that will go away. Bottom line, what all this does scientifically is creates different kinds of precip type. So I think we're going to go from some rain, depending on where you are. Again, we'll show you all the maps, just giving you kind of summary. I think we'll go from rain. We'll have some sleet at times. We'll have freezing rain once our surface temperature drops below freezing or at freezing. That's the stuff you really don't want to mess with. And I do think we're going to have some of that. And then we're all going to finish with snow tomorrow. And some of the lake effect could be briefly heavy. But overall, here's how I want to start things off. This is not a major winter storm, okay? This is just an inconvenience tomorrow, okay? We don't even have a winter weather advisory out. Will it be one issued by the Weather Service? Maybe for Lake and Porter counties. I really don't see this being a huge issue outside of that, though. This is an inconvenient storm. This isn't going to shut down travel. You're okay to drive. Just you need to be on the back of your mind. You need to know that, hey, it's slick if it's untreated. Things that are treated should be okay, but your sidewalks, your decks, your side streets, your windshield when you're outside, if you leave your car outside, those are going to get a little icy, especially later in the day tomorrow as we go later in the day, because we're going to have some sleet in front of that. Okay, so that's a precursor. If that's all you need to hear, then I appreciate you joining me tonight. We're going to dive into the details as always here. Let me get the maps going. And also I want to thank our sponsors. Again, this is a bonus show for them, but we've got a wonderful family of sponsors here. Our newest I want to highlight, which is the St. Jude House. They do phenomenal work in Northwest Indiana. We just partnered up with them. They started a mobile advocacy program in February. They're super excited about it. I am too, because it's such a great resource. Domestic violence is not something fun to talk about, right? It's not. And I get uncomfortable with it myself, as should you. But a lot of people deal with it. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men in their lifetime deal with it. It doesn't have to be, a lot of us think sexual violence, right? But it could be financial, verbal, mental, whatever it happens to be. There's many different kinds. Bottom line, St. Jude House is a wonderful organization that takes care of the people that need to get away from that. All right. So if you or someone you know is going through that at work, coworkers, friends, family, whatever it happens to be, please visit their website at stjudehouse.org. And again, it's a wonderful organization. They're not asking for money or business. They're asking for you to get the word out about it, okay? Because they exist and they're doing great things and they need your help doing that, okay? Grigors Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, they're fantastic. They've been locked up with us for a while. Again, they specialize in Jeeps. They're a wonderful line of Jeeps out there. Discovery Travel, if you don't know who they are a local travel agency here in Northwest Indiana that does everything you want for a trip or just a couple things for a trip. They can plan out excursions, flight, hotel, all that stuff if you want them to. If you are planning a trip, please don't do it by yourself or on Expedia or anything like that. Use a local travel agency. It'll get you the best price. It'll be worth it, I promise. And that's discoverytrvl.com. And then Ewing Mechanical Services, as I run through the list here, we're almost done, I promise. I have a big special right now where if you get a new AC and a furnace, you get a free smart thermometer plus a free in-house humidifier. It's their best special of the year. They're running that right now. They're very active on Facebook, so you can find them at Ewing Mechanical Services here on Facebook. And then our favorite plumbers, Tiger Plumbing. Wonderful. It's tigerplumbing.net. They do so much great work around the region. They come out for free. They don't charge you just to come out and analyze the problem. Anything wrong with pipes, anything leaking, Tiger Plumbing, place to go. Okay. And they keep the show for free. So I appreciate you being patient as I run through those, but really they are nothing but family here. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about what we've got going on weather-wise. This is our system now taking shape. The swirl you see that just left, that's the one that brought all the wind. That's gone. Winds have calmed down, right? It's been a very actually pleasant evening. But this area of low pressure you see moving out of the Four Corners region, it's coming out in the plain states. And watch how over the last couple frames here, you see these storms start to develop in Oklahoma. It's connecting with Gulf of Mexico moisture. The cold's clashing with the warm. This is our system as it develops, and that will fill in as we go throughout the overnight. How does it fill in? Well, the first thing I want to do, show you kind of a big picture with how the system develops. As we go through time tonight into tomorrow, you notice how this low pressure develops right here. It brings in moisture, but with our temperatures being right on that line of freezing, not just here, but in the upper levels as well, as some cold air comes in. This precip isn't going to be all rain. It's not an easy precip forecast. And it's likely not going to be constant. We'll have waves of precip, and then it'll go dry for an hour or two, waves of precip. This all happens tomorrow. And again, things as temperatures turn colder here in the region will get icier as we go throughout the day tomorrow. And then by tomorrow evening into Friday morning, it's all snow, and then we're done with it. Okay, so that's kind of how it evolves. So let's dive into details. I've zoomed in here so we can get a really good look at what the latest model run. And I've switched models. This is the latest HRRR model, which is the HER model. I agree with this. I like it. It's been consistent. So I think this is how things are going to play out. At least in my mind, this is how I would forecast it as well. Okay, so let's go through it. This, in terms of your timing right now, this is about 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're preset free at 1. 2, 3 o'clock will be preset free as well. I think everything kind of moves in 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So yes, this is just before your morning commute. Temperatures at this point should more than likely, again, we're covering all of Northwest Indiana, but more than likely will be around anywhere from 35 to 39 degrees. So most of it will be rain early on, okay? At the same time, there's going to be some colder air aloft. We'll start to get colder here at the surface. So that rain as we go throughout your morning commute may start mixing with some sleet, little ice pellets. We're not talking freezing rain at this point, but we may start mixing with some sleet, especially in our northern counties. That's Lake and Porter counties, LaPorte County too. So 8094 may have some sleet falling. You'll hear the ice pellets mixing with the rain. This is 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Notice, and a lot of you have business plans up towards Chicago. Notice up towards Chicago, we've got snow at this time mixing in with some sleet. So they're going to be mainly snow in the Chicago area with some periodic wintry mix. If you're going anywhere north of Chicago, up towards the Skokie area, as you get up even up towards Kenosha in Wisconsin, that's going to be all snow for them. There's no question what kind of precip they're going to get. That goes all the way back towards Rockford as well. So all snow here. Right here is where that fine line is between the icy mixture and all that. Okay. And we happen to be in that. That's why we're talking tonight. So as we go latter half of the morning, we're rain still. Newton, Jasper County, Stark County, you should be mainly rain for that morning rush hour. I don't anticipate any problems from you. Even Lake and Porter and LaPorte counties, with the sleet mixing in, I don't think there's going to be a lot of icing issues yet, because surface temperatures are still going to be in the 38, 39 degree range. If we get a heavy burst of sleet, that can put down a little slick layer on there that should melt off, because again, we're still above freezing. So I'm not too worried about that morning commute, but a lot of you are probably going to have some sleet pelting the window as you're moving out. Another thing you want to do when you're driving tomorrow is keep an eye on your car thermometer. I usually say in the summertime, because that thing's usually reading about 150 degrees, it's inaccurate, but in the wintertime, it's super helpful. Anytime this time of year, if you have precip falling outside and that car thermometer is reading 32 or lower, for example, let's say it's reading 29 degrees and it's raining outside, know that that is accurate and that rain is likely freezing rain, okay? So as long as everything's above 32 degrees tomorrow morning, which it will be, at least, for that morning commute, things will be fine, all right, despite what's falling from the atmosphere. As we go throughout the day, we have more waves of precip. Notice how there's some holes in it. There'll be some dry air in this. This won't be a constant line. It'll be kind of patchy. It may not even be this filled in. But either way, as we go through the day, we continue with the moisture, and we're now into the afternoon hours. We're still mainly rain for Newton, Jasper, and Stark County. But as you get into Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties, we've turned over from rain to just a lot of sleet. As we go throughout the afternoon, and I'm thinking, I wrote it down, I'm thinking sometime afternoon, either 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, will probably drop from 33 degrees to 32 degrees. At that point, that's when things could start to get tricky around here. Not crippling, but just tricky for untreated surfaces. I think we're going to go from rain to more sleet and even some freezing rain at that point. Remember, freezing rain, we have to have our surface temperatures here have to be below freezing. So if our temperature is 33 degrees, our air temperature, there's no freezing rain because our surface isn't cold. It's not freezing cold yet. Once we drop below 32, we get down to the 31, 30 degrees late in the afternoon. If it's raining, that is freezing on surface, okay? So this is going to be mainly sleet event mixed in with some snow during the early afternoon. And that's when things will start to, I think, go downhill. And this is for that evening rush hour. It's not widespread, but we're still dealing with patches of freezing rain at this point because our surface temperature has dropped. We'll have some sleet and we'll have some snow mixing in there as well. At the same time for that evening rush hour, we've got this low's really started to develop. So we have a strong northeast wind that's developed. We'll have gusts over 30 at times. It'll be blustery, just kind of nasty out. And that's kind of what we're going to settle into for that evening rush hour. So is it going to be a huge event tomorrow evening? No. I think if roads are treated, we'll be fine. But again, those secondary surfaces, sidewalks, decks, your walk from your office out to your car, we have the potential that we're going to turn a little icy around then. It's not going to be the biggest ice storm you've ever seen, but it's going to be pretty slick outside, okay? So just keep that in mind as we go throughout the afternoon, that things are going to get a little bit icier as we go through time. By tomorrow evening, we have leftover freezing rain, freezing drizzle, sleet, snowflakes all mixed in. And then eventually this whole low pulls around and we get some snow. I don't think, and I said this on Monday, I don't see a lot of snow from this. I still don't. However, we have this little window tomorrow evening into tomorrow night of this little lake effect band. You see it here. The models have picked up on it nicely. With the northeast wind, it's going to be more up towards Chicago, but then it kind of curls in here on the backside tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, and we could get a several-hour window really across all of northwest Indiana, but especially Lake Porter and LaPorte counties, where we get some decent snow for a brief time. And that I think is where we get our snow. I think maybe a half an inch to an inch at best from this system, but this lake effect could add another inch or two on top of that. So we're not talking big snows, but maybe 1 to 3 inches in Lake and Porter counties, and that includes the lake effect. That will be on top of a little layer of ice as well. So just not real pretty around here tomorrow night. Everything should be okay as long as it's treated for that Friday morning commute. It does look like temperatures are going to stay cold because we've got some pretty cold air working in behind this, so we'll stay in the 20s, but should be enough time to clear. There's not a lot of lingering snow. In terms of the modeling, I want to show you the latest snowfall forecast. This is the latest one. There's your system snow. So this is a good storm for Chicago. I mean, 2 to 4 inches, I think, ought to do it for downtown. But if you get north of town, the Northbrook area, Skokie, as I mentioned, up towards areas of southern Wisconsin, Racine, all those areas could be talking a good 3 to 6 inch out of this. So you can see this model saying 7 inches. We don't get a lot from that. We get a coating, maybe a ½ inch in our northern tier counties. Here's the lake effect component, though, and you notice how the HRRR brings in some pretty significant lake effect with this. Again, I'm going to go maybe an inch or two with this, but you can see, I mean, this is pretty impressive. The HRRR's saying 11 inches in areas of Lake County, and this is a brand new run, so I haven't seen this yet. So we'll look at that. We'll keep that in mind. But again, I don't think we're going to get a blockbuster lake snow. This isn't really that cold of air for this time of year. The lake is running warmer. Obviously, there's no ice on it whatsoever until you get up towards the northern part. So, you know, that's something we need to factor in. But I do think we get some lake effect behind it. I don't think it's on the order of 10 to 12 inches of snow. Okay, so take the HRRR for a grain of salt here. But we are going to turn a little snowy on top of that ice tomorrow evening. Okay. So that's kind of what that looks like. In terms of long-term after that, and then as always, we'll answer your questions here as we always do on these Region Weather Lives. But I want to go a little bit longer than that. Let's look at your weekend and next week, because next week gets really interesting. And I've been saying that, you know, the models continue to show a very active pattern with storm after storm. So this is the latest Euro run as of today. This is the system that's pulling on out. Okay, there it goes. We settled down nicely this weekend. Weekend looks great. The bounce back from Friday in the 20s to Saturday, probably mid 40s, is going to be tremendous. We're going to switch around to a nice west-southwest wind on Saturday, and that's really going to help to warm us up. So this cold air just doesn't last. It lasts for one day, and that will be Friday. And then as we get into Sunday, southwest wind continues. This is when the parade of systems start. So Sunday into Monday, a little system zips by to the north. You can see it doesn't have much moisture with it. But here's Monday into Tuesday. Some kind of system zips by, doesn't look too impactful. Wednesday into Thursday, models continue to converge on this solution where some kind of system, whether it be two lows or one low, kind of merge together. And that would bring us a nice strip of snow, says the Euro model, on Wednesday. And then this system right here was our big one. And notice how it's changed a little bit. It has no connection with Gulf of Mexico moisture whatsoever. So it's just this big area of snow. It just looks weird to me. It doesn't look good on the modeling. So I just don't like the way the models look on it. And then there's some other kind of storm next weekend. So every 2 days next week, we get some system in here. But I'll tell you, all the models, and I said this on the TV side of things today, all the models are so different next week on the way they handle these 4 different low pressures, and rightfully so, because if the first one's off on the modeling, all the rest will be. So hold on next week. I don't think any phone apps that you have or any forecast you're seeing, even on the TV side of things, I don't think it's accurate beyond next Tuesday. I really don't, because the models don't have a good grasp. They're all different, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they all have a different outcome in terms of how this turns out, which isn't usual. That's not typical for the models. Usually they converge on some kind of solution. It's just off in some of the details. But I think they're all just kind of different next week. And so any forecast you're seeing, I would not pay attention to beyond next Tuesday as of right now. Tomorrow, hopefully they'll become more in line. But we do stand a chance of some snow next week and a more wintry scene with several systems zipping by. There'll definitely be some more precip and moisture in the atmosphere rather than these quiet 2 to 3 day stretches that we've had. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now. In terms of bitterly cold air, I don't see any of that in the near future either. So there you go. That's kind of what we're looking at long range. Okay, so we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Go ahead, throw them up in the chat. I want to thank you guys for joining us on our YouTube channel as well. And those of you on our Facebook family, certainly appreciate that as well. All right, let's see what we got. Deb asks, is it snowman making snow? Deb, this will be tomorrow. I don't think there's going to be enough of it. And the problem is there's going to be that ice layer underneath, whether it be, thin or whatever it happens to be, it's still going to be an ice layer. And the snow behind that would be a wetter snow, but we're going to have lake effect. Most of our snow is going to come from lake effect, and lake effect isn't typically heavy wet snow. It's typically a little bit fluffier, especially as our temperatures drop. So I really don't think this is going to be real good snowman snow because of the fact it's going to be lake effect that we're dealing with. If you get up towards Chicago and areas in northern Illinois, yeah, that's going to be good snowman making snow. That should have good water consistency to it, but not here locally. Let's see. Yeah, Sarah, the modeling, we got to hold our horses on that. I know I've been talking about that 21st, 22nd of February timeframe for quite some time. We just need to hold our horses on that because again, the models don't have a good solution. So here's the system right here. This is now the 22nd. So I said the days could change on it. And this still brings us some good snow on the Euro. Let's look at the latest GFS because earlier this didn't match and it still doesn't match. So it has the rain going by first and then the system kind of develops. Everything's kind of disoriented. So the GFS says no go on it whatsoever. And then the GEM says it has like clippers coming in here with some snow. So there's still some snow around there, but that huge blockbuster storm has gone away. But I don't think it's gone for good because I think the models could converge again on how this system comes together next week. I think we just need to take a timeout from today's models because I don't like any of them, which is rare. And I think we'll have to see what tomorrow's model runs show us. But great question for sure. Laura asked a great question. How will the drive from Northwest Indiana to Ashland, Ohio be on Friday? Or Lori, not Laura. I hate when people mispronounce names. I'm trying to think here because, again, I forecast in Cleveland. And so Ashland's on our list. Ashland's not going to get a lot of snow. No one in Ohio is going to get a lot of snow from this on the backside of it. So I really think you're going to be okay. Lori, it's going to be cold the whole way, and it's going to be kind of windy outside. The thing we'll have to watch is if there's any leftover snow in the South Bend area, courtesy lake effect. Because remember that lake effect band's going to kind of curve around and eventually go through the Ashland, or not Ashland, the South Bend area, which is on your way to Ashland, unless you take a southern route. So that's something we'll have to watch, but I really don't think you'll have too much in terms of travel impacts in the morning. The ice that we're dealing with is going to be mainly here. The ice situation isn't really going to spread that far east. It's mainly here because the moisture is coming in when we have the cold air. So you should be okay. Let's see. Russ is ready for spring. Dave asks, how close do we live to the train derailment site? Dave, it's just outside of our viewing area. It's actually not in Cleveland's jurisdiction, although we've been covering it. I know a lot of national news has said no one's covering this. We've covered this every single day, and we've covered it a lot too. But anyway, so I don't live that close to it. It's down by the Youngstown area. Again, we're in the Cleveland area. It's in Columbiana County, but it's been top of mind. And again, I was right in the middle of that forecast when it happened, when they decided to blow up, the rail car to prevent it from blowing up itself. We were watching it, and it was showing up on the radar while I was doing newscasts, and we were looking at it, and I'm like, it's showing up on radar too much, right? And so we looked at the atmospheric profile, and that's when we figured out there was an inversion in the atmosphere, and it wasn't a good time to do it. They had to do it, but it wasn't a good time. And the reason why that inversion was a cap on the atmosphere. So the smoke, instead of going out to space and dispersing, right, there's basically a lid on the atmosphere that night. The same thing that brings us low clouds that don't go away in the wintertime sometimes. So there was a lid on the atmosphere. So that smoke came up and it hit this lid where it couldn't go any further, and it spread out. And the skies got so dark down there. We were worried about, that atmosphere, that smoke coming down to the surface at that time. And thankfully it didn't, because everything kind of scoured out. We lost that cap later that night. The wind picked up the next day. But what a mess. And that has been top of the news here. I feel like it's just now gaining national attention on all outlets. You've heard it on some, but it was a big deal, and it continues to be a big deal for those folks. Big question now. I know, we don't need to get into this because this isn't Northwest Indiana local, but the big question now is how much of that is getting into the water supply. Is it a big deal or is it not? A lot of people, get very conspiracy, and I understand that when you're dealing with government stuff. I get it. But it's really hard to get that down into the water table. It really is. Water table typically sits down about 15 feet or so. We had some rain. We had about half an inch of rain there in here during that event. So, but that's not enough to get it down 15 feet. Problem is we've had more rain though. And some of those tributaries that you saw the fish wash up, stuff like that, that's now getting down towards the Ohio River, which affects so many more people, right? That goes into the Mississippi River. So it's just a mess to say the least. It really is. And there's no clear cut answer because you can't do drills for stuff like this. So I hope they figure all that out. But it certainly is top of mind for all of us here, even though we're not really that close to it, but all of them as well. Luann, thank you very much. I appreciate that for sure. Let's see, man. Okay. Sarah, thank you very much. Dave, you're welcome for that. Cindy, yep, you're welcome. Yeah, it's not very good. Mary's checking out my Instagram feed today. I fed the kids. It was such a nice day that I took the kids out and fed them. I ordered a pizza today, which is embarrassing. But the boys and I ate a pizza. We had it delivered. We ate outside in we have a little paddle boat for our little pond. And it was cute. We had a good day today. So Mary, they did. I would say the kids didn't eat most of the pizza. Their dad was hungry. So I was. And my wife even came out and joined us. So that was great. Maxwell, I don't see any signs of Arctic air. I really don't. There are signs of Arctic air, but it stays in Canada. It does. There were signs that later on this month we were going to get a chunk of it. That has moderated over the last couple model runs. We're still going to turn cooler, and I'll say colder. We'll still turn colder end of the month. So most of our precip chances will be snow next week, but it's still, it's still not. This is still a pretty incredible February. A lot of people throwing, climate change, all that into this conversation. And I get it. I mean, climate is changing, right? We all know that. But I did go back in time and I look for Februaries like this. We have had many Februaries like this before. 1884 was one of them. 1931 or 32, one of those 2 years, was another one where we had a multi-day stretch of 60s and even some 70s in February before. So, keep in mind, things are cyclical, right? So just because it's been warm now, and this is maybe the warmest February that you can remember in your lifetime or the last 10 years, however long your memory is, we've had Februaries like this in the past. So it doesn't mean that, every February is going to be like this from now on. And the West has been getting hit hard. We also have to remember everything's in balance. So while we've been warm all winter, the West has been cold and snowy all winter. And they're getting more snow out there with these systems. It's been incredible for them. It's erased the drought for many people. It's been a wonderful winter for them. So the payoff is we're on the warm side of things. So just keep that in mind, okay? Deb, I have no idea what March is going to be like. I can't find a single site that told us that this February was going to be this warm. In fact, I saved a lot of you guys know my feelings on these winter forecasts that come out. A lot of, TV stations and stuff will say, click here, we've got your winter forecast. And it's like a fortune teller. It's so vague. It doesn't tell you any numbers. Some of them that were ballsy enough to put out numbers, I saved those and I have them and they're so far off. AccuWeather being one of them. It drives me nuts because no one goes back and checks this work later on when it's all said and done. But I saved the evidence, so I'm going to go back and check later on. So I have no idea what March is going to be like, and I'm just being completely honest. We can look at patterns. A lot of things that I've looked at in terms of you can look up analogs or years in the past that we've had a warm February, warm January, cold December. We can look that up and try to match it. And a lot of signs point towards a cooler than average March. But on a week-to-week basis, we can't tell you what that means. Does that mean, you could have, a week of 70s and sunshine and you'll consider it a warm March. And then you have one snowstorm and that verifies as, a snowy March or whatever. So I really don't know. That's my long answer of saying I really don't know. Yeah, Jeff, it's pretty incredible. Jeff says no snow again this year. I know. And my heart goes out to all the snowplow drivers that really rely on that income. I get it. This has been really famine this year, not even a feast. Debbie, they did consult. So there's no National Weather Service in Youngstown. There's one in Pittsburgh, though. That's the closest one. So they do manage the Youngstown area. And I was thinking they didn't. That was our worry, was that no one talked to a meteorologist when they did that. But they did. And they were very close ties with them. They had to blow that thing up essentially, or else it would have done it on its own and the shrapnel would have gone within a mile. It would have been a much bigger mess had that blown up, which it had a real good risk of doing that on its own rather than doing the control. So they really didn't have a choice in that point. Yeah, for sure. Dave, I see your comment. I see it. I just like to put things into perspective. I'm not going to say if I lean either way, but if you have someone trying to put things into perspective, I think you understand. Let's see. Yeah, Adrian says, I remember about 15 years ago, we had a tornado watch warnings last few days of February. We have had, Adrian, a few severe weather events in February. And what's interesting is we get this time of year, if you look at a weather map, you've got 70s and 80s to our south, and you've got 20s and 30s to the north. And those two just play with each other all spring. And, all you need is a low pressure, tomorrow's isn't a good example, but a low pressure that's stronger and takes a different route to pull that warm 78 degree air up. And all of a sudden we've got a really warm February day because the warmth is available now. It wasn't in January, right? And so that's what's really interesting is these low pressures are the things that drag the air masses to places where they aren't typically. And because of that, you tend to get these storm systems. You can have all sorts of weather this time of year, whether it be severe weather or whether it be snowstorms. We can have that too. So real interesting in terms of kind of where we go weather-wise. Joshua just joining us. That's okay. Thoughts for Western Chicago suburbs, ground temps. That's a good question, Joshua. I do think you're going to see more snow in the western suburbs of Chicago. Precip type shouldn't be much of an issue for you. You might have some sleet, little freezing rain, but I think it's mainly snow for you. In terms of the accumulations, this is the latest HER run, which has, let me pause it here, which has anywhere from 6 to 10 inches for you. I would downscale that a bit. I would probably say this is going to be a good 3 to 6 incher for you. And remember, things could be on the 3 end as well. If we don't get 6, a lot of people complain, right? 3 to 6 is a good range for you, despite what the model's saying. And what was the other question? Ground temp's going to affect accumulation. That's a good question. I think initially, yeah, I think they will. But we're going to get cold enough air into the system towards the end where temps will be dropping into the 20s. 20s is enough that it's going to negate that warmer ground temperature. So I think initially probably, and that's why I would cut these totals back 3 to 6 inches from, what you're seeing here, which is 4 to 10 inches. But yeah, it's going to be a good snow for you. Heavy, wet snow, not a huge event, but, certainly disruptive is kind of the word I've been using here tonight. Ann asked a good question. Driving to Toledo Friday night and then to Pittsburgh on Saturday. And you'll be just fine. Yeah, you will be just fine the whole way. May encounter a little lake snow left over depending on when you leave as you get towards South Bend. I think even that's going to wrap up. I don't even think that's going to be a big deal. And you should be dry the entire way. Once you get to Ohio, we're not expecting a lot of icing issues here. There will be some snow that comes via lake effect towards the end of the event. I don't think you'll drive through that. I really think you're going to have a pretty easy trip, and Saturday looks great as well. Russ asked, so totals 1 to 2 for Dyer area, same for Illinois side with a chance of lake effect around Dyer. Yes, Russ. I would say, probably 1 to 2. I would lean more towards the 1 with this system, and then an additional 1 to 2 of lake effect on top of that. So worst case scenario, I think 3 or 4 inches, and that includes that lake effect. Scenario I think will fall into is the 1 to 3 range throughout this. And there'll be different snowfall types too. The snowfall with the storm system itself will be more of a wet snow. The lake effect will be a little bit more fluffy. Okay. Oh, Russ, happy birthday tomorrow. Yeah, Jeff, is next week Thursday a dusting again? Jeff, at this point, I will not question anything. Let me just show you what the models are saying for next week. Again, there's just kind of hodgepodge chances of snow next week. Some of them could be a little bit bigger. And so here's what the models are saying through next Saturday. This is the Euro in terms of snowfall. It's got 3 to 5 on us total. It's got the bigger snows off towards the north. Let's go to the GFS, which has a strip of snow here. That's from the current system. It's got real heavy snow up by Minnesota with not much on us at all. And then a Canadian model, this is the latest run of that. Canadian's been a little bit snowier here over the last week in terms of the modeling. It's got anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. So as of right now, no big snow next week because that system, it kind of brings in 3 waves versus 1. but I wouldn't sleep on the models yet, because again, if you heard me earlier in the broadcast, Jeff, I don't think that the models have a good handle on next week's setup. I think they all disagree on how these storms come together. And with multiple low pressures in play, all you need is one change in the model runs to bring two of those together, and we have our storm again. So let's not sleep on next week quite yet. Debbie and Mary wishing Russ a happy birthday. So there you go. All right, everybody. I think that's it. Hopefully that helped answer your questions. Again, not a huge, impactful system tomorrow. It's going to be disruptive, though. Untreated surfaces. We're going to have some slick spots tomorrow evening for that rush hour. Tomorrow morning, we'll have mainly rain mixing with sleet. So you'll hear the ice pellets hitting your windshield. And then we'll transition slowly, and I do mean slowly. Northern counties first, southern counties last. We'll go again, Newton, Jasper County folks, it's going to be rain most of the day. Okay. Mixing with sleet. Shouldn't have many ice issues down there until later on in the afternoon and evening. The rest of us, though, that sleet will gradually win out. It'll mix with some snow at times as we go throughout the midday and early afternoon. It'll be sleet, snow, break, little snow, little sleet, break. And then we'll mix in a little freezing rain in the afternoon into the evening before it all turns to snow for everyone. Not a big snow, but again, a little slick for that evening rush hour. Okay. So that's kind of where we're going with that. All right. And Justin asks, any big winds coming up? Justin, it's going to get windy tomorrow. Winds will be probably over 38 miles per hour. Times this would be afternoon and evening. But in terms of big wind systems, no, I don't see any massive area low pressure. This one that just went through was probably the biggest over the next 10 days. The one that we just had that produced the wind yesterday. Okay. And early today. All right. I think that's it. You guys have a good night. I appreciate you joining me. We'll keep you updated. Obviously we're on the radio side of things too. So we'll have our radio updates as usual in the morning, and we'll have our posts throughout the day tomorrow as well. Okay. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.